Hey, um, big experiment today. I hope this is working. We're going live on several different channels. So let's see. And I want to talk about NeuroGraphica today. What is NeuroGraphica? That's the big question. And it is a really big question, actually. But I will try to shine a little light on it today. My name is Antje Howard. I am a NeuroGraphica trainer, instructor, and I'm originally from Germany, but I live in the US. And I teach and work with the NeuroGraphica method. NeuroGraphica was created by a Russian psychologist named Dr. Pavel Piskarev. He's actually a psychology professor now. So I actually prepared a little presentation that I will show you. If all of this works, we'll see. Okay, and there we go. So we have a presentation here. Yeah, I think you can see it. Awesome. So what is NeuroGraphica? NeuroGraphica is a visual method, but it is, of course, more than that. I first took kind of the title of it, Neuro and Graphics, so we're first going to talk about that, to kind of just pull out the strings and see what it's made out of. So when we look at that, we have on the one hand neuro, which kind of points towards neurons, the nervous system, the brain. We have neurons all throughout our body and our brain. And there are, of course, many neuron-like structures all over the world, like in everything, no, in trees and plants, and every living thing has neurons, nervous system. And yeah, we have this very interesting ability of our neurons, especially humans in the brain. There's been a lot of research about that and a lot of recent discoveries that point toward a plasticity of the neurons, which means that the neurons can change, a flexibility of our neurons, which means that with the right tools, we can change our nervous system. And that is something that in today's world gets more and more interest, especially because so many people are nervous overloaded. And we try to regulate the nervous system. And NeuroGraphica is an approach to doing that through art. So in a fun way. So NeuroGraphica works on our brain. And it can actually change our brain. There are also studies about that. Unfortunately, they're still all in Russian because NeuroGraphica comes from Russia and it's not very old yet. So maybe in the future, there's going to be more studies about that. So the second part that we're working with is the graphic aspect. And graphic, of course, points to kind of a visual representation, an iconography, a depiction of something in visual terms. And in Russian, the term NeuroGraphica actually means graphic art that works with lines. So it's drawing, it's etching. It's not so much art that is working with, for example, just color or something like that, but it's specific to art with lines. And in the NeuroGraphica method, the line actually plays a very, very, very super important role. So that makes perfect sense there. And about this role of the line, I'm going to talk later, and I'm actually going to do an extra series just about the line because it's so important and so stands out as a very prominent element of NeuroGraphica. So today I want to talk about three different aspects of NeuroGraphica, three kind of things that make NeuroGraphica very unique compared to other practices. So first of all, we have self-observation, which is kind of interesting because why do we have self-observation? So NeuroGraphica is a drawing process. We actually have a pen and a piece of paper and colors and we draw, but also it's a mindfulness practice because while we draw, we constantly observe ourselves. And this is almost like a very complicated thing to do. So you draw, but at the same time, you're always kind of watching your body reactions, watching your emotions, watching your breath, watching your thoughts. So it's a very deep meditation in a way. And you can really learn to understand the language of your body and of your emotions and of your mind, of course, with NeuroGraphica. It's a very holistic approach to being human in the end and to creating. So when we create, oftentimes we kind of get out of our body. No, I know for myself, for example, that I used to make things and then I would like not even realize how crunched over I'm sitting, how I'm hurting myself. With NeuroGraphica, that's not going to happen because an essential part of NeuroGraphica is to always check in with yourself to see what each element, what each part of the drawing is actually doing in your body, how it resonates in your body, how it resonates with your emotions. So it's a practice that is way beyond drawing, way beyond making art. And it really taps into this mindfulness meditation, mindfulness and meditation practices. And also, of course, I said before, I said actually in one of my posts that NeuroGraphica allows us to access deeper layers of our consciousness. And that's where the emotions in the body especially come in because our subconscious and our unconscious layers of our consciousness, they do not communicate in words. Like our consciousness is in words. And then we have layers beyond that. And they may come up as thoughts or as visions or something like that. Or they may come up as a feeling that we have, a memory, a body sensation. So by focusing on these other layers, we also focus on the layers of our consciousness that we want to bring to the forefront. So we really kind of dive into our own deeper layers with the drawing. Okay, so I'm gonna go to the next one, the visual language. So of course, we work with visual elements, and NeuroGraphica has Pavel Piskarev, the founder, he created a specific, very quite specific actually, visual language. We have a visual alphabet. We use certain shapes and we use colors in a certain way. In the beginning, we mostly use circles. The reason for that is because the circle is a very harmonious figure. And the first algorithm that everybody who really learns NeuroGraphica goes through is an algorithm that works with inner tension. And when we work with tension in ourselves, like problems, quarrels, kind of challenges that we have, then we want to use harmonious figures so that we can harmonize ourselves through the drawing. So we're actually, in a way, regulating our nervous system with drawing, with using specific shapes. And then in later algorithms, in later classes, for people that want to go further, there is actually one class, for example, that is all about how to use certain shapes, how to use them in the space. So it's, of course, a little bit more than just the shapes and the colors, but for the beginner's mind, I just put those now. And then we have the lines and the interconnections, and those kind of create almost like a syntax. This is why I read this. Almost like we have an alphabet that creates words and thoughts. And then we have the spaces in between, how they are connected. And that kind of forms sentences and larger elements of thought in our picture. So the way that lines connect different elements. Here in this example, for example, I have a bunch of circles, I have triangles that are sitting in specific, in an outline, and I have some squares, and they all have different meanings. And that comes just from kind of the figure that it is, but also I give it meaning. I'm going to come to this part later. And then I have the lines, different kinds of lines, and different lines in different directions with different strengths that connect these elements. So I can create really representation of very complex ideas. So I can bring the complexity of life, put it into these shapes, put it out on my piece of paper and work on it, and literally go through processes of restructuring it. So this visual language allows us to think in a different way, to see different connections, to process our thoughts in a different way. And yeah, that's like one of the things that NeuroGraphica is really about. And Pavel says that with that, we can experiment our future. So we can create situations in our future, put them on a piece of paper, and then see how they play out, see how it feels for us, how we act in them. But yeah, all of this is good to try out. So it's very hard to really theoretically explain NeuroGraphica. So I'm going to go to the last part that I wanted to talk about today, and that is giving meaning. So when we, as I said, we can take a lot of different elements from the real world and translate them into shapes, into color, into elements in our picture. We can place them on the canvas, like they can have attributes like how big they are and where they're placed and how they're placed in relation to each other. And then we go through and have like a specific step-by-step process of processing them, and in a way integrating the patterns into ourselves. So we are looking at what we're doing and we're creating it at the same time. And this allows us to modify, to adapt, to witness what happens. So, for example, if I put myself in a drawing and I'm a tiny little circle, at some point I may decide, no, I want to be bigger, and I can just change my circle. So it's easy as that. It would be nice if it was that easy in real life, but that possibility allows me to think of myself as bigger. And then, of course, with a few more steps into real life, I can actually become bigger. But the idea behind it is that everything that we can think, everything that we can wrap our mind around or have as an idea is easier to manifest in the real world. So in a way, we're pre-manifesting. No, we are kind of bringing, and in NeuroGraphica, we work a lot with the things that we want to change. So we can create change inside ourselves just by going through processes on the paper. And we can have new realizations. We can see the things from a different angle. We can see connections that we haven't thought of before. We can see that one element is way more important or way less important than we thought. And all of that kind of creates itself almost in a drawing. So like we start with an idea and then we go through the process, and in the middle it's really so meditative that we come to places where we don't think anymore. So we constantly jump between the brain halves, no, the left side and the right side of the brain, like thinking about things, giving meaning, putting thought in our mind into it, and then stepping back and really just feeling into, okay, what does my body say to that? How are my emotions about that? And so with the meaning giving, we create connections that were not there before. And we literally create connections in our brain that were not there before. We can see interrelationships between real things that we haven't seen before. And with that realization, we go back into life. And then, of course, through the different elements that we work with, which is shapes and colors and lines and connections. And yeah, there's several different aspects. At the moment, the algorithm has 8 steps. It used to have 7 steps. It was just changed to 8. I'm going to talk about that another time. But so through the different steps of this process that we go through, we actually sink deeper and deeper and deeper into our subconscious. So the goal is really to allow these deeper layers to communicate with us in a way. No, because if I draw something and I give it a certain meaning. For example, the same example, I have like this little circle and that's me, and I feel like, oh, my stomach feels kind of funny with it. And then I make it bigger and I feel, wow, my heart's certainly opening. No, we pay attention to that. And that's really the most important part, probably. Okay, so these are the 3 very important aspects, things that make NeuroGraphica really unique, that I wanted to talk about today. Now, the man who made NeuroGraphica, Professor Dr. Pavel Piskarev, he is a Russian Israeli, actually, psychology professor and artist and a coach, and he used to be an architect, and he's a martial arts teacher and teaches meditation. So he's like a very interesting person. I think I wrote an article about him too. So he created a whole institute. It's called the Psychology of Creativity Institute. And there, NeuroGraphica is taught. And so if you're interested in really, really, really learning, I just wanted to mention that. Maybe some people who want to jump right in. You always start with the NeuroGraphica basic course. So that is a class that introduces you to the method itself, the theory behind it, the steps of the algorithm, and you learn to use it by yourself. And this is a class that I also teach, and I'm going to teach it live again soon. So stay tuned for that. And then there are professional courses. So if you want to use NeuroGraphica with your clients, for example, because it was created as a coaching tool, which if we use it by ourselves, it's a self-coaching tool, but you can also work with clients using the drawing, which I can really recommend. It's very interesting, and it brings up a lot of new thoughts in people and a lot of new realizations. Even if people have worked through a theme in their life several times, and you kind of think, okay, maybe, um, maybe you solved it, then there's always still going to be something. So that is like the next level. And then there's the next level, that's the instructor course. And that's if you want to teach NeuroGraphica to people, then you go and do the instructor course. And that's a year-long program. And you go deep into your own processes over that year. So I can really recommend that too. Okay, so that is just if you want to learn more. But for now, I'm going to see if I can go back to my normal self. There. Okay, now I'm going to find out, hopefully, if there's a question. Hi, Natalie. Good morning. That's awesome. I see someone. Well, that's great. So if there are questions, please ask your questions. If you have questions later, you can always comment. What I wanted to say, what else do I want to say? Yeah, I will, over the next 2 weeks, go a little bit deeper into the most iconic parts of NeuroGraphica, the parts that make the pattern. So if you see a neurographic drawing, you will always recognize a certain pattern, and that is made of the lines and the interconnections. And I'm going to talk about the lines and the interconnections, and we can actually do some exercises with that too. Today, yeah, was just kind of an overview of what NeuroGraphica is about and some of the very unique aspects of it. So since I don't see any questions, I would like to invite you to just go into a very, very tiny, interesting, experimental exercise with me, if you want to. You can just sit and close your eyes for a moment. Feeling your feet on the ground. We're going to go into the body and into the self-observation and see what happens when I observe myself. So I invite you to take a few deep breaths and just be here and now with your body, with your emotions, with your thoughts, just as you are. Breathing deeply and just being with what is right now and kind of observing. Maybe there are sensations in your body. Maybe you feel just where your body touches the ground. Maybe there are other sensations. I have a little weird feeling in my back right now. And you can lightly move, of course, as well. This is not about sitting straight. It's about being comfortable. Just feeling where your body needs some attention right now. Becoming more and more aware, conscious. And then maybe you feel the area of your heart or your stomach. And you can ask yourself, what kind of emotions are present? How do I feel right now? And this is a question that we hardly ever ask ourselves, but it's so good to stay in connection with that. Just bringing some mindfulness to your emotions. Breathing into it, giving it time and space. And then just go on and watch your thoughts for a moment. What kind of thoughts come up? Are there any questions? Are there any thoughts that you're thinking right now? Did you maybe drift off to something entirely different? Just being with that for a moment, observing, And then I invite you to just imagine you had a pen in your hand. You can even imagine having a pen in both of your hands, just holding on to your pen, holding it maybe in front of your body, and then just start drawing a circle into the air, imagining a circle there. And you can draw with either hand. And just see, what does this drawing a circle does to you? Does your body feel different? I suddenly feel my feet for some reason. Is there a change in emotion? You can change the direction of your circle. Maybe visualize the circle as well. Or just become aware. What kind of images pop up in your mind when you have your hands drawing a circle, an invisible circle in the air? Just enjoying that for a moment, the sensations. And then you can bring your hands back down. If you feel like it, you can rub your hands for a moment too. And then place them over your eyes, rubbing your face, waking yourself back up, coming back into the place where you are, into the room where you are. Breathing. And just checking in with yourself again. What did that do now? Do you feel different than when we started? Do you have a different thought maybe? Or did anything happen in your body? This is what we do during the drawing. So, yeah, this kind of sensation of drawing, it's in a way very physical. Of course, we have a pen in our hand and we draw, and this movement of our hand does something. And then at the same time, we watch and we have this visual impression and we see something evolve and change, and then it starts having colors and it's changing again. So really, with the process of NeuroGraphica, we go through yeah, like I don't want to say process again, but it's a process. Through like a journey. This is how I like to understand the drawings. We kind of embark on a journey, and NeuroGraphica allows us to go in like in a specific way, but also be open to whatever happens. So it's a very interesting container for this self-exploration, which in the end is a method of self-exploration and a method of creating ourselves from the inside out, recreating ourselves. Okay, so I think I've maybe talked enough for today. I'm looking forward to your comments, and I hope that that was interesting for everyone and that it maybe shone a tiny little light on what NeuroGraphica is all about. As I said, I'm going to start teaching the NeuroGraphica basic course live today, and I'm going to come with more news about that in the next few weeks. But yeah, thank you everyone who was here with me, and I'm looking forward to see you soon. Bye bye.